local Evolution Fighting Championships have become both a destination event and a springboard to larger promotions for fighters. Mitch Clarke is the former EFC welterweight champ, but last month he got a shot to showcase his talents on the biggest stage in the world, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Jacob Zare has been following his career and was lucky enough to make the trip to Toronto for the story.
Mitch Clarke grew up in Saskatoon and took Taekwondo and karate when he was younger. But after he saw wrestlers dominating early Ultimate Fighting Championship bouts, he was inspired to take up grappling. He wrestled through high school and university and then began competing in mixed martial arts. MMA analysts often speak of wrestling as being the best base to start from, and Clarke would agree. He knows it allows him to dictate how the fight will progress, but he also feels the sport develops something more important: mental toughness.
The workouts in itself is very tough, and it's made basically to break you down, in my opinion. You see a lot of wrestlers like John Fitch, those type of guys, they have an unending work ethic. You can't break them mentally. And I think that that's also what it brings to the table in mixed martial arts.
Clarke started training with the Fight Club in Lloydminster while he was finishing his environmental science degree, and then fought for the local Evolution Fighting Championships. He eventually won the welterweight belt, then vacated it to compete and become champion for a different organization in Edmonton, which was later bought out. He then competed again for the EFC and is grateful for the long history of support.
They've really helped me build my brand almost. They've all supported me. So I'm really happy to have been part of this club in the earlier stages.
Then in August, his management secured for him the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to compete in the sport's premier event, the UFC. The news left Clarke at a bit of a loss.
You spend all these years, you're like, I want to fight in the UFC. I want to fight in Japan. I want to do something big in this sport. I want, basically I want to be remembered. And then you get there, you're like, well, now what?
Clarke was also a little unprepared for the haters that came out in online forums once the word spread, but he took it in stride. He surrounded himself with good people to get where he is today, and he's not confused about who his friends are.
I know who are the people who have been there with me since day one or have helped me along the way. I know those people won't go away. I could be fighting in Battle in the Bar in '73, they'll be there. I could be fighting in the UFC for a title, they'll be there.
So soon after hearing the news, he wasn't feeling too nervous yet, only excited for the chance to live out his dream.
I think I'm strong mentally. You don't see me have too bad of jitters when I fight. There's going to be, maybe it's different, but I plan on having the same mentality for every fight.
3 months of the most intense training of Clarke's life followed, and then fight weekend in Toronto. Clarke was a fan long before he was a fighter, and seeing the big names he was on the card with in person was daunting at first.
When you first get here, it's a lot to take in. It's almost like an overload. But then you start to realize they're just people.
Clarke had a tough weight cut that week and was pushing right up until the very last minute to get within 1 pound of the 155-pound lightweight limit.
So I was doing sprints in the back before I hit the scale, and they wouldn't let us on the official scale to check. So I just kept doing sprints. I just wanted to make sure I was on weight. You can't show up at your first UFC overweight. It looks bad. It looks bad on the sport, looks bad on the UFC, looks bad on you.
Although he'd seen tape of his opponent John Cholish on stage at the weigh-in was the very first time he'd ever come face-to-face with him.
Didn't really see anything in his eyes when we were facing off. That's why I changed to kind of like old Irish kind of boxing, and got no reaction. So no biggie. It's a fight. He could be someone I used to train with or anything like that. We're still gonna punch each other in the face. But one thing I definitely noticed was I was way bigger.
So just hours before the biggest test of his life, Clarke was feeling a little drained but optimistic.
I feel good. I feel confident. It's a tough fight, but it's definitely a winnable fight, and I think I'll come out. I don't think he's expecting my style of pressure fighting, mixing strikes and ground.
And he had a specific goal in mind for the desired outcome of the fight.
I'd like to win by TKO or KO, first or second round, hopefully.
Coming up after the break, Mitch Clarke